Hello everyone. My name is Billy, and this is my YouTube channel, A Traditionalist Catholic. And I wanted to share a little bit of what happened. What happened this Thursday night at my parish. My archdiocese is experiencing a crisis where the numbers of faithful practicing Catholics has dramatically dropped. It's just tanked. And large numbers of unbelievers in the archdiocese. So a team from the chancery had came to my FSSP parish, and they were giving the first of a two-part session on evangelization and the Archbishop's vision for it. So we had found out that the Archbishop wants every parish in the Archdiocese to be a missional community, which was explained to us as basically a stable community around the Eucharistic celebration. As one guy put it later on, it's just be a parish. All right, fair enough. And the next part of the vision was that every non-Catholic in the Archdiocese who knows a Catholic can feel like that Catholic will take care of them and has their back. Okay, fair enough there. Excuse me. And part of the talk, where the team was fielding questions, I had brought up the example of Father Capodanno. And one of the quotations in Father Mode's book, The Grunt Padre, which is basically as a life of Father Vincent Capodanno. If you don't know who he is, he was a Navy chaplain who served in Vietnam with the Marines. He received martyrdom 4 September 1967 in heavy combat with the North Vietnamese Army. And in that book, Father Mode would often have quotations from a book, Radiating Christ, written by Father Raoul Plus, S.J. From the early turn. He was a French Jesuit from the early half of the 20th century. And one of the things that Father Plus had wrote in that book that Father Mode quoted was, and I paraphrase, was, you have to show that living the gospel is heroic. And I added on with that, no one wants to follow a whim. Now, and then tying in how this ties in with how I brought in Father Capodanno, was that Father Capodanno, as I said, was a Navy chaplain. Originally, he was a marine missionary, served in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and then hearing that there was a need for chaplains in the Marines, the Navy. So he received a Naval Reserve Commission and became a chaplain. And then was sent to Vietnam to pastor the Marines. Now Father Capodanno, he did a lot of good stuff. He was known as a Grunt Padre because he was one of those. As a chaplain, he would actually get into the field carrying full pack, sharing the conditions of his Marines, which he had thought of the Marines under his care as all of them, Catholic and non-Catholic, as his parishioners. So he would share their conditions, eating their food, carrying packs, sweating, go out in combat operations, because he cared for his men. Now his martyrdom was, again, like I said, 4 September 1967. It was, and for those who have not heard the story, basically Father Capodanno was accompanying Mike Company doing a search and destroy in the province of Da Nang. Now the company had gotten into an area. One of the platoons up forward had gotten into heavy contact with the with communists, and actually was in danger of being overrun because there was so much Vietnamese and a small platoon of Marines and the sailors with them. So Father Capodanno left the safety of the command post went to that endangered platoon, and by his example and by word, he inspired he inspired the Marines and sailors of that embattled platoon while he was while he was giving medical aid and administering the sacraments. Now, 3 times he was wounded. Twice he was urged to allow himself to be medically evacuated, and both times he refused, saying, "I need to be where my Marines need to be." And Father Capodanno, just before he died, there was a group of 3 Marines and a Navy corpsman. 3 Marines went in to take care of a machine gun position that was causing a lot of trouble. The machine gun position killed 2 of the Marines, wounded the third. He was basically bleeding out. And then a Navy corpsman came up to help him, and the corpsman was wounded. He was bleeding out. Both men were waiting for to be bayoneted or shot while wounded. Father Capodanno came up, encouraged the Marine, and he went to the wounded corpsman, and perhaps while he was administering extreme unction, anointing of the sick, for those who are familiar with the Novus Ordo, and covering, and actually had his back towards the machine gun, covering the wounded corpsman, and the communist gun, which is ready to go, had killed Father Capodanno and the wounded corpsman with a machine gun burst. Father had received 27 machine gun rounds in the back. When I heard that story, when I was early in, like a year or 2 after I'd been received into the church, like 2017, I heard that story of just Father running around, moving about the battlefield, helping wounded Marines, helping the Marines and sailors. I thought to myself, that's the kind of Catholic that I want to be. And just I think perhaps that'd be a good idea of how as Catholics we can do evangelization, because evangelization doesn't necessarily mean you stand up on a soapbox and you preach and you call out sin and error and all that. I mean, it has its place, but as laity, our place is basically to be the leaven in the world, salt of the earth. We witness to Christ in our daily lives, and whenever and the lady from the chancery, she had brought up this point that I'm about to bring up about that's what you do. You just simply live your life, and if people and people would ask you, why do you do what you do? Well, this is why. And I fully agree with that, because if we just simply live good, holy lives as Catholics, and worldly people are going to be freaked out about this, that, or the other, they're going to be completely stressed out about kids or jobs, what's going on in politics and society, and they just see the Catholic, and he's just making the sign of the cross at dinner, and he's having a good conversation with his boys. And then what if some worldling comes up and just says, "How are you not freaked out going on with what's going on in the world?" Well, it's Christ. I know God is in control, and He'll take care of it. In the meantime, I do what I live the faith to what he commands me. Because and another point that I'm going to bring up is that early on in my time at my Emphasis P parish, I was one of those Catholics that were constantly worried about what was going on in the hierarchy. Especially learning what I've learned in the last couple of years, seeing what's going on. It's like, oh boy. The associate pastor gave me some really good advice. Was just simply pray the Mass, live your faith, serve in your vocation. Excuse me, sorry. I think just doing that in the world as a layman will be a really good way to evangelize. And as well as what I'm thinking here is taking the example of Father Capodanno, is that why not just simply the example I take from Father Capodanno is just simply as I live my life, I go about the spiritual battlefield of our culture. And just I'm helping Catholics shore up their lives and helping and bringing the gospel to those suffering souls that I encounter. That I encounter. And and what happened yesterday at work was that there was a young woman. She was crying. I saw that she was very, very sad. She was like on the verge of crying. And I asked her, I told her, I'm sorry that you're sad. And then she's like, well, and then she started telling me about well, yeah, there's this going on. I'm like, with my brother. I'm like, okay, well, what happened? And just, she was telling me this sad story about her brother, and she's worried about him. And I just talking with her, giving her some advice, trying to encourage her a little bit, and I just told her, well, you have my prayers. And so that follows from the example of Father Capodanno, and then and just helping others where I can, because ultimately that's compassion. So something I've been thinking about, and I thought perhaps by sharing in this video, perhaps it might help you as well. Hopefully it does. Spera in Deo. For those who don't know, Spera in Deo means hope in God. In Latin, it's part of the preparatory prayers at the foot in the traditional Latin Mass. Something that sticks in my mind. And something something that might help those who are struggling with the crisis in the church. A simple thing that came to my mind was, wait a minute. The Psalms tell us that evil arises only in the short term, and in the long term, eventually evil falls, and God and goodness prevail in the end. So that's very helpful for me. That's been very helpful for me in dealing with the crisis, because then I just look at what's going on in the Synod and all these really just outright heretical bishops and cardinals that have been talking freely in the news, and just remembering that it's only in the short run. God allows them to arise in the short term, but eventually they'll fall. So why worry about it? All I got to do is just simply be a good, faithful Catholic, hold to what was always believed everywhere by everyone, as Saint Vincent de Lerans had said, back in like what, the 4th century, I think it was. So anyway, well, something to think about. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening, and spero Deo that that what I've said has been helpful for you as well. God bless you all. Mary keep you, and see you next time. Bye.